You were an option. Now he feels the pain. You were never supposed to be an option, but somewhere along the way, someone treated you like one. And worse, you accepted it. Let me tell you something powerful today. Just because someone couldn't see your worth doesn't mean it wasn't there. It just means they weren't ready. And you spent too long hoping they would grow up and realize it. You were always loyal, always available. You forgave too quickly, made excuses for too long, and held on to hope that love, real love, would make him change. You thought patience would prove your value. You believed that if you just loved harder, gave more, compromised again, maybe, just maybe, he would wake up. But here's the truth. Love should never feel like convincing someone of your worth. You see, he didn't feel the pain when he had you. Why? Because you were always there. Because every time he pushed, you pulled. Every time he neglected, you nurtured. Every time he disrespected, you gave another chance. But something changed, didn't it? There came a day when you realized that loving someone more than they love you isn't strength. It's sacrifice. That you were giving your whole heart to someone who only wanted the parts of you that were convenient. You stopped showing up. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped waiting for texts that never came. And that silence, that stillness, that absence, it hit him like a storm. And now he feels the pain of losing someone who would have done anything for him. The pain of realizing too late that you weren't just an option. You were the best thing that ever happened to him. He lost the real you while chasing illusion. And now you're the one he replays in his mind. You're the one that gets compared to everyone else. You're the one he scrolls back to, reads old messages, watches your stories, hoping to see a sign that you still care. But it's too late, because the moment you learned your worth, he lost his power. So no, you weren't the one who lost. You just let go of the wrong person. And by doing that, you made space for the right one to find you. Someone who sees you not as an option, but as the only one. When someone treats you like an option, it doesn't mean you're not valuable. It means they haven't recognized that value. This is one of the hardest truths to accept when you're in the middle of loving someone who can't or won't love you back the way you deserve. Being treated like an option means they respond when it's convenient, show up when they feel like it, and disappear the moment things get too real. They keep you close enough to feel needed, but never close enough to feel secure. And the worst part, you stay. You stay hoping that your consistency will one day be rewarded with commitment. You stay believing that your patience and love will open their eyes to what's right in front of them. But here's the thing. True love doesn't make you question your place. It doesn't leave you guessing or overthinking your every move. Real love is clear. It doesn't come with mixed signals, delayed replies, or half-hearted effort. When someone truly wants you in their life, you feel it. It's shown in their actions, not just in their words when they fear losing you. Being someone's option often starts subtly. You excuse their behavior because you're emotionally invested. You tell yourself they're just busy, they've been hurt before, or they just need time. But time without progress is not love. It's emotional limbo. And the longer you stay in that place, the more you forget what it feels like to be prioritized, respected, and chosen fully. You may think that loving someone more, showing up more, and being extra patient will eventually earn you a permanent place in their life. But you can't work your way into someone's heart if they only ever saw you as temporary. Love should be mutual. It should come with peace, not pain. When you're an option to someone, it's not because you're not enough. It's because they're not in a place to value what you bring. And if you keep trying to fit into that mold, you shrink your self-worth in the process. You are not here to convince someone to see your value. You are not here to audition for a role in someone's life. You are here to love and be loved in return, with clarity, with confidence, and with mutual effort. When someone treats you like an option, it's a reflection of their own limitations, not your value. The moment you stop accepting that role is the moment you start attracting people who see you as a priority. The kind of love that lifts you, not leaves you. The kind that doesn't wait for you to walk away before it realizes what it had. Because in the right relationship, you don't feel like you have to earn love. You just are loved freely, fully, and without condition. There comes a moment when words are no longer enough. You've explained yourself, expressed your pain, shared your heart, and waited for change, for effort, for the kind of love you knew you deserved. But no matter how many times you spoke your truth, it felt like it fell on deaf ears. That's when you learned one of the most powerful lessons in love. Silence is sometimes louder than anything you could ever say. Because silence, when it comes after giving your all, isn't empty. It's full of everything that's been ignored. When you stop chasing someone who's taken you for granted, they feel it. Not right away, maybe. At first, they might even be relieved. They think you're finally giving them space, backing off, letting them breathe. But slowly, your absence starts to echo. The calls they used to ignore don't come anymore. The texts they replied to late or never don't show up. The care, the support, the presence that they took for granted, it's all gone. And suddenly, they start to feel what you felt. They feel the distance. They feel the silence. They feel the shift. And in that silence, a powerful message is delivered. I'm done. Not out of anger, not even always out of heartbreak, but out of clarity. The clarity that says, I've done my part. You begin to reclaim your power, not through arguments, but through your stillness. No more defending your worth, no more explaining your needs, no more asking for the bare minimum. You simply step back, not to make them miss you, but because you finally remember what you deserve. It's in your silence that they start to wonder. Did they go too far? Did they lose something real? Did they underestimate what they had? And the irony is, now they want answers. Now they want conversations. But where were those questions when you were pouring your heart out? Where was that energy when you were begging for effort? People underestimate the impact of withdrawing energy. They think silence means weakness, but in reality, silence is the sound of strength. It's the sound of someone who has nothing left to prove. It's the sound of boundaries being built where they were once broken. It's the shift from victim to victor, not because you won a game, but because you stopped playing one. And make no mistake, your silence isn't cruel. It's self-protection. It's peace. It's the final act of self-respect in a story where you've already said more than enough. So important. The more you've got, the more you've got to live, but the more it lives, the more you get. It lives. It's the sound of someone who's been there. And it's walking away not because you want them to chase you, but because you finally stop chasing someone who was never willing to meet you halfway. Silence is your way of saying, if my voice couldn't change this, maybe my absence will remind you of what you lost. But even if it doesn't, you'll be okay. Because your silence, this time, was for you. He didn't feel the loss when he had you. That's the heartbreaking truth. When you were showing up every day, being consistent, forgiving, loving him through his flaws, supporting him even when it cost you your peace, he didn't recognize what he had. You were always there, always answering, always caring. And because you made it look easy, he believed your love would always be available. He got used to your kindness, your effort, your loyalty. He stopped noticing the small things because you gave so much of yourself without expecting anything in return. That's what made it so easy for him to take you for granted. People often don't realize the value of something until they experience the lack of it. As long as you were around, he had no reason to question what life would be like without you. He assumed you would always be there, because you always had been. You forgave him after arguments. You stayed after disappointments. You believed in him when he gave you every reason to doubt. In his mind, you were a constant. And constants, unfortunately, are rarely appreciated until they're gone. But something changed. You finally reached a point where the pain of staying became greater than the fear of leaving. You didn't scream. You didn't beg. You didn't make a dramatic exit. You simply stopped giving him access to the parts of you he never valued. And when the messages stopped coming, when the check-ins disappeared, when the emotional support vanished, he felt it. He felt the absence of something he had never truly acknowledged, your presence. And not just your physical presence, but your emotional availability, your energy, your warmth, your belief in him, your love. That's when the pain started for him. Not in the chaos, not in the fights, but in the stillness. When he went to call you and hesitated because he wasn't sure if you'd answer. When he remembered something funny and wanted to share it, but realized you weren't there to laugh. When his day was falling apart and for the first time you weren't there to hold him together. That's when he began to realize that no one else could fill the space you once did. He might try to replace you. He might go out and seek attention, distraction, even affection from others. But none of it will hit the same, because it's not about what you did. It's about who you were, the way you cared, the way you understood, the way you showed up for him when no one else did. That kind of love doesn't come around often, and when it does, it leaves a mark that no one else can erase. And now he feels the pain, not just of losing you, but of realizing how easily he let you slip away. He thought you would always stay. He thought he had time. But love, once unappreciated, doesn't wait forever. And the day you stopped showing up was the day he truly began to understand what he lost. There is a moment in every person's life when they hit a breaking point, not out of rage or sadness, but from clarity. That moment when you finally look at yourself in the mirror and say, I can't keep doing this to myself. You stop blaming them. You stop hoping they'll wake up. You stop waiting for an apology, a change, a gesture to make everything okay again. And that's when everything shifts. That's when self-respect takes over. Because up until then, you were loving from a place of hope, not from a place of truth. You were trying to fix something that was never fully yours to begin with. But once your self-worth wakes up, the whole game changes. When you truly start to respect yourself, you no longer entertain half-hearted love. You no longer accept inconsistency, confusion, or crumbs of affection that come only when it's convenient for the other person. You begin to realize that you don't need to beg for effort. You don't have to prove your value to someone who sees you as replaceable. And the moment that realization sinks in, your energy changes. Your standards rise. You no longer chase after people who leave you guessing. You don't stay quiet about your needs or shrink yourself to fit into someone else's life. It's not an act of ego. It's not about revenge. It's about finally valuing your peace more than their presence. When you choose self-respect, you send a message not just to them, but to yourself. You declare that your heart is not a revolving door. You tell the world, I am no longer available for anything less than what I truly deserve. And while that choice may cost you certain relationships, it gains you something far more important, your self-worth. Ironically, that's the moment when they start to feel your absence differently. When you love them endlessly, they didn't see the full weight of what you gave. But when you start moving with dignity and distance, when your silence becomes louder than your words ever were, they feel it. They start to question their choices. They begin to wonder what changed, not realizing that it was never sudden. It was slow. It built over time. It was the accumulation of every ignored feeling, every unanswered call, every broken promise. You didn't change overnight. You just stopped tolerating what broke you. And that transformation, it makes you unforgettable. Not because you walked away, but because you walked away with grace. You didn't curse them. You didn't try to make them hurt the way they hurt you. You simply chose yourself. And that's what stings the most. Because when someone starts to see you through the lens of self-respect, they realize what they lost. They realize you were the one who stayed the longest, tried the hardest, and believed the deepest. And yet, you were also the one strong enough to walk away. That's when they miss you. Not when you were pleading, not when you were explaining, but when you stopped, when you chose peace over pain, when you remembered who you are and refused to forget again. Letting go is often painted as failure. People talk about it like it's giving up, like it's a loss you should feel ashamed of. But the truth is, walking away from someone who couldn't see your worth is one of the most courageous things you'll ever do. It means you've chosen healing over hoping. It means you've decided that being alone is better than being half-loved. That's not weakness. That's victory. You didn't lose him. You let him go. There's a difference. Losing someone implies you had no choice. Letting go means you made one. You looked at all the ways you were hurting, all the ways your needs were being dismissed. And instead of continuing to settle, you said, "This isn't enough for me anymore." That choice doesn't come from a place of anger. It comes from deep self-awareness, from learning slowly and painfully that love isn't supposed to hurt like that the right person won't make you feel like you have to earn their affection or constantly prove your value. You gave your best. You were there when they needed you. You forgave more than you should have, waited longer than you needed to, and loved harder than they deserved, and yet they still couldn't show up. They still couldn't give you the consistency, effort, and respect you were craving. So you stopped. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you started loving yourself. Letting go is not about being cold or heartless. It's not about pretending they never mattered. It's about accepting that they didn't meet you where you were. That no matter how much potential you saw, it never turned into something real. And you can't build a future on maybes. You can't keep pouring into someone who doesn't pour back. At some point, you realize that holding on is doing more damage than walking away ever could. And here's what often happens after you let go. They come back. They start to feel the emptiness your presence used to fill. They miss the comfort of your love, the way you listened, the way you made life easier just by being there. But by then, something in you has changed. You're no longer the person willing to accept less than you deserve. You've grown. You've healed. You've seen what life feels like without the constant emotional roller coaster. And you're not willing to go back. That's the real win. Not in watching them regret, but in watching yourself rise. In finding peace where there used to be chaos. In waking up one day and realizing you're no longer waiting for a message that never comes. You're no longer hoping for change from someone who never saw your light to begin with. Letting go gave you that freedom. It opened the door to something better. It reminded you that you don't lose people who truly value you. You lose the ones who never did. Goodbye, and remember, the right person will never make you feel like you're too hard to love.